Welcome to episode 201 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson. And together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can make informed decisions and build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. The novel coronavirus, COVID-19, is on everyone's minds. And for those of us in the middle of construction or simply planning a new build, it's natural to wonder how the pandemic might affect our home building plans. I stress the word might because no one can be sure how long the pandemic will last or how long-lasting its effects might be. But in an effort to better understand what could possibly happen in residential construction in the near future, I talked to a local builder and scoured the internet for articles on the subject. Most of the information I got came from newspaper articles from different regions of the U.S., Builder Magazine, and ArchitectMagazine.com. Builder Magazine's editorial director, John McManus, writes that the construction and home building industries need to keep working during the outbreak, and that there's no reason they can't do so reasonably and more carefully. He says, quote, "We'll get through this. We obviously need to keep people working where we can, but we need to do what we can not to inundate an already stressed out healthcare system with thoughtless and reckless decisions regarding our precious human resource of workers." End quote. The impact of COVID-19 on the U.S. economy will be impossible to predict because there are so many unknowns. Most sources are relying on logic and historical data from other slowdowns in the industry to make predictions. Unlike the drops in home sales and home building during the 2008 mortgage crisis, the effects of the pandemic are not expected to last nearly as long. Exactly how long COVID-19 will affect the construction industry will depend on how quickly we can contain the virus and the national and international economic reaction to the pandemic. Most estimates are that the pandemic will cause an 8-week delay in the start of or completion of construction. Rob Dietz, chief economist of the National Home Builders Association, said on the HBA podcast that he predicts the home building industry will experience a temporary downturn with declines in remodeling, single-family home builds, and apartment development. But residential construction, he thinks, will rebound at the end of 2020. Other sources think the economy and home building industry won't come back to normalcy until sometime in 2021. Mr. Dietz is estimating that 40% of builders will see major traffic declines, and another 40% will see minor traffic declines. Home building contracts, he thinks, will be deferred, but not completely lost. Nate Hudson, CEO of the Southern Nevada Home Builders Association, feels the luxury home building market will see steep declines since there have been such drastic drops in the stock market. Many homeowners building luxury homes use equity in stocks to pay for their projects. So if the value of their portfolio is way down, many are delaying or canceling home building plans. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Hodgson is also worried that fewer starter homes will be started since populations building starter homes are likely to be hit hard by layoffs and loss of income. Because of growing concerns over the spread of COVID-19, Boston Mayor Martin Walsh announced a 2-week halt of all construction projects in the city of Boston. Boston's construction ban went into effect on Tuesday, March 17th, and will last at least 2 weeks. Boston's construction ban is the first of its kind in the U.S. Nearby Cambridge, Massachusetts, has also banned all construction, but Cambridge, Massachusetts has enacted an indefinite ban, which began on March 21st. Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker said he has no plans to stop construction statewide. Boston and Cambridge gave construction crews almost a week to make construction sites safe and secure by Monday, March 23rd. Construction companies, individual contractors, and developers have all been ordered to halt all work in those cities. The only exception to the construction ban is for emergency work, such as emergency street repairs and utility hookups. This work can continue with approval from the city. As states and municipalities increase restrictions in order to slow the spread of COVID-19, similar construction bans may soon be implemented elsewhere in the nation. But Jim Tobin, lobbyist for the National Homebuilders Association, is fighting for all construction to be deemed an essential activity during the pandemic and to assure that federal, state, and local permitting continues. The construction as an essential activity argument seems to have worked in California, although California has a shelter-in-place mandate that requires that all individuals stay at home. Construction, including residential construction, was deemed an essential service that can continue. California's governor has said that beyond the construction workers actually doing the building, those in construction operation, inspection, and maintenance are also exempt from the shelter-in-place mandate. Allie Wolf, Director of Economic Research for Myers Research, says she's hoping for a sharp, short drop in the U.S. economy with a rebound starting in May or June. During the downturn, she predicts layoffs, bankruptcies, and bailouts, but says, quote, "If we can get COVID-19 under control, it can be something that turns around fairly quickly, but honestly, no one knows," end quote. Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan, Moody's, and Goldman Sachs are also forecasting an economic slowdown that's short and steep. The second possibility is a long, drawn-out recession. The possibility of a long recession increases as government, corporate, and individual debt increases. In addition, the longer the pandemic persists and the more widespread the disease, obviously, the greater impact on the economy and the home building industry. One bright spot is that Allie Wolf expects lending rates to stay low until the economy gets back on track. Once the effects of the pandemic start to level out, it may be a great time to start a home building project, since you will be able to potentially lock in an extremely low interest rate. That does, of course, depend on your ability to come up with a down payment, which may be a challenge given the current reality of decreased work hours, smaller paychecks, and unfortunate layoffs. This time of low interest rates could also be a time for some of you to apply for a cash-out refinance for home improvements or remodels, either so you can stay in your newly improved home or to get your home ready to put on the market before building your custom home. Now, finally, let's take a look at a few specific areas of home building and how the virus might affect them. Permits and inspections. Different local areas are reacting differently and setting up different protocols to keep their workers safe. In some areas, that means that permit offices are either closed or running with reduced personnel. That means in some areas, inspectors are not going out on active construction sites, and building permits will either be delayed or on hold until the pandemic conditions improve. National production home builders. With most of us being advised to shelter in place and observe social distancing, nearly all open houses and model homes around the country have closed for public tours. Some large national production builders are allowing private tours of their model homes, and many of them are promoting virtual tours. According to the LA Times, national production builder Lennar said they're pausing land purchases, but that sales and construction will continue. Different production builders in various parts of the country will have different plans regarding new and existing contracts. Contact national home building companies that you might be interested in for their specific policies. Construction schedules. Schedules will undoubtedly be delayed. Whether that means delays for a few weeks or several months, no one knows. Delays could be due to lagging delivery of materials, slower permitting and inspections, loss of construction workers due to illness or quarantines, or extra time needed for trades to do their work due to social distancing and sanitizing efforts. These conditions will cause most projects to be completed later than planned. Contracts and agreements. Insurance policies, lending agreements, and leasing agreements may have to be modified to cover the longer than expected period of construction. And finally, prices. It's hard to say what housing prices and construction materials and labor prices will do. There will most likely be a decrease in supply of construction materials since many companies won't be producing as much due to financial strains and personnel shortages. Typically, if there's a decrease in supply of goods or laborers and demand remains the same, prices tend to increase. But this pandemic will probably also cause a decrease in demand for construction materials and labor, since many homeowners will delay their plans to build. With decreases in supply and demand, the prices of construction materials could stay stable without much movement up or down. But this is just a prediction. The truth is, none of us knows how prices will be affected. But at this point, it seems probable that the virus could simultaneously decrease both the supply and demand for new houses and housing materials and laborers. Since you're listening to a podcast about how to build a quality home, you're probably like me, someone who likes to have a plan and someone who likes to have control, at least most of the time. Unfortunately, the uncertainties associated with the spread, duration, and effects of COVID-19 won't allow us to plan or be in control like we'd like to. We're kind of at the mercy of this thing. The good news is that mortgage rates are amazingly low, and the duration of COVID-19's impact on the U.S. could be fairly short-lived if government officials continue to enact containment measures and offer economic support to businesses and individuals affected by the virus. Even if your home building plan will be significantly delayed, more than likely, your plan won't have to be indefinitely deferred. It may take more weeks, months, or even years more than you had hoped to complete your dream home, and that can be disappointing and frustrating. But let's be intentional about being grateful for life, relative health, loved ones, and a future, and be thankful that things are as well as they are. Stay safe and be well. Thanks for joining me. Join me again next time for another episode of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.